Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. Today we've got an incredible LEGO Star Wars MOC for you, designed by the extremely talented LEGO builder Jarek. This is the TIE Bomber. This ship was first seen in The Empire Strikes Back, and those two clips I showed to you guys in the very beginning of the video are actually all of its screen time that it ever had in the original trilogy. But despite that, the TIE Bomber is a very well-known and well-recognizable ship within the Star Wars universe, and just like the rest of Jarek's MOCs here we've got in the studio, this model really is something special. Now, we do sell the instructions for this MOC at our web store, BrickVault.toys, and just like the rest of the models that you can find there, it comes with a full PDF instructions file plus an XML file for easy and quick ordering on BrickLink. So back to the build. First things first, the TIE Bomber is built at minifig scale. That means it's just the right size for a LEGO minifigure, and it compares perfectly accurate with all of these other Star Wars ships that you see flashing by the screen. In the 9 seconds total scene with the bomber, the Millennium Falcon is hiding from them, and if they ever did end up in the same shot together, this is how well they would compare. But personally, I like showing this off next to the other two original trilogy TIEs that Jarek has designed. Here you can see a very distinct build style amongst all three ships, and probably the most noticeable detail among them are the wings that have a sort of studless build scheme with the black solar collector centers. It's a very distinct build style, and I think it adds a lot to the accuracy of the ship, and in general I think it's just a more aesthetically pleasing looking model all around. Now, something that doesn't necessarily translate just by looking at it is the fact that this model is about twice as many pieces as maybe either of the other models. So when you pick up the bomber, it feels almost literally like a brick, and it's just kind of fun to imagine that because these models are built in the same size scale, that they might also have a relative weight scale that's similar, and I just was not expecting the bomber to be such a beast in terms of actual weight. But in universe, that actually totally makes sense because this thing was designed to be stronger, heavier, be able to take a bit more of blast because it was dropping bombs, and subsequently the TIE Bomber is a much slower ship, thus earning itself the nickname Sitting Duck by the Rebel pilots. Now, getting into the details of the model itself, let's start with the very front. The windscreen folds down at the bottom, then after that the control console folds down, and it's a tight fit, but ultimately not too difficult to get the pilot sitting inside. And the cockpit of the TIE Bomber has a cramped yet decent looking interior for sure. My favorite bit of building though around this area is the shape that we get just around the windscreen. It's a combination of certain slope pieces and some fun little connections with clips that allow this cylindrical shape to kind of round in on itself. You'll see it more in the back of the ship, but first let's pan over to the second pod. This is what's known as the Ordnance Pod. It's the most distinctive feature of the TIE Bomber, absolutely, and it's responsible for holding and dropping all of the munitions that this ship carries. There's a lot of little details that are included here. The flat areas in between these slope pieces are supposed to be the areas for heat dispersion, and we have this very distinctive protrusion that comes out right in front of the missile firing port. Inside you can see a few that are ready to go, and even in between the two pods, all of the greebling here that you see is actually supposed to match what you see on the original model as close as we could get in LEGO. And the same thing can be said for the rest of the body of this bomber. There is so much detailing that goes around the entire body, the pods, the arms, as well as the wings. So I'm not going to point out every little thing that you might see here, even though you can probably find each little part in the cross sections book for the TIE Bomber. But there are definitely a few more spots on this model that I feel are worth taking a closer look at for sure. So checking out the back of the pods, you can see how those cylinders round inwards towards those dishes. The larger one is kind of inverted in on itself with the smaller one on the inside. Makes for a really wonderful looking shape. And then in between the pods, you can see some of those gray bullion pieces, and those parts make up a lot of detailing, especially when you look at the inside of the wing. They're kind of speckled in grid formation throughout the entire length here, and they push all the way up until we see the joints of the arms actually connecting to the main bit of the body. Just like the previous ties, these connection points are super, super strong. The wings don't feel flimsy at all. They don't wobble sort of independently from the body like maybe some of the models from Lego do. And there's a really fun bit of clever connection getting the studs on the other side to actually invert and face towards each other. Now, when it comes to the wings, this is one of the more interesting parts about the TIE Bomber model itself that makes it pretty different compared to a lot of the other TIEs. Even when comparing the two different Lego models, you can see that the gray exterior, or the gray outlining that goes around those solar collectors, is quite a bit thicker, and that's because the original model of the TIE Bomber has a much thicker section for this part of the wing. It feels like maybe the creator of the original model from the Empire Strikes Back movie only really looked at the original TIE Fighter model as kind of a rough reference, and then they kind of just maybe did their own take on the wings because they are a bit wider, and from what I understand, the original models of the TIE Bombers that were used in the filming of the Empire Strikes Back didn't even have a cockpit fleshed out. You can even see the interior bar running through the main bit of the body. Sorry, that's just a fun bit of trivia, but long story short, the shape of the wings are quite a bit different, and personally, I welcome the sort of thicker gray edges that we have all along the perimeter. Similar to the TIE Interceptor, the angle that we get for the wings are attached both on the outside as well as the interior, so there's sort of two different types of layers connecting the wings and really making that a strong connection point. Proof of which I think is the fact that the model can sit on top of its wings and not bend or bow in any way on the bottom. Now, the last detail to point out is something that you guys have definitely seen in passing, but the name of this thing that is sticking out the very bottom of the bomber is the bomb drop chute. And it functions to do exactly what you might think it does, and it shoots those proton bombs out the bottom like we saw it doing in the movie. It's a very clever little bit of building, and I think the shape was achieved just about perfectly. So just like the rest of the TIE Fighter MOCs, this is totally swooshable. In fact, this feels maybe even a little bit more swooshable than the other TIE models. It's got a bit more of a contained shape because the wings are quite a bit shorter, and the body itself is just heavier and thicker, and it feels a little bit more solid and almost block-like. Jarek, the designer, is one amazing Lego builder, and the family of TIEs that he has been working on have really turned into something special. They're each distinctly unique in design, yet they all follow a similar and familiar build style, which is very strong, very accurate, and they feel like they're really cut from the same cloth. You can get the instructions for the TIE Bomber and the rest of these MOCs at our web store. Once again, that's BrickVault.toys. It does help support this channel and the designers that go into making these awesome creations. So if you like any of the models here or what we do on this channel, I'd say it's worth taking a closer look. And that is going to be it for this episode, everybody. Remember, if you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.